everybody, welcome back at the social media channels of EUSOBI, the European Society of Breast Imaging. And today it's again my great pleasure and really true honor to talk to Francesco Sardanelli in a long version of our interview about the EUSOBI breast MRI training courses. So over 1 decade ago, Professor Sardanelli came up with the idea of doing these courses. And today we can cover in a little bit more detail the history, the passion, the concept which drives him to do that. Francesco, thank you very much for being here. So let our audience know about this vision of this course series of yours at the EUSOBI.
Thank you, Matthias. First of all, I have to thank a person that is Thomas Helbig, because when we started in 2012 with the first course in Vienna, with the participation of really very important persons in the story of breast MRI. First of all, Werner Kaiser. Second, Sylvia Ewang, Christiana Kuhl, and many others that participated in the first edition in Vienna in 2012. What happened during these 10 years and also before is absolutely interesting, so that I think that breast MRI can be considered a school case of evidence-based medicine and problems in applying the evidence in clinical practice. I want to tell you a couple of stories. The first one is a story of low specificity of breast MR, because when people started to use this method, the sensitivity was very, very high, but people had still to learn about reading breast MRI. So the consequence was that everything that appeared to take the contrast was judged as positive. And in the first reports, also in important journals, the sensitivity dropped to 40%, 45, 37, and so on. This idea of low specificity was judged as an important drawback of breast MRI for many years and obstacled the diffusion of the technique, especially in the judgment of surgeons, oncologists, epidemiologists, and so on. But during the time, especially after 2005, 2008, people realized that looking at all the study and the meta-analysis in 2008 published in Radiology by Peter Sedars showed that the specificity was 72%. So with a sensitivity over 90%. So things started to change, and a good balance between sensitivity and specificity was found. But it was a battle. It was a fight against this opinion, because it was only an opinion about the low specificity of breast MRI. And we had also difficulties in showing a very evident thing, so that specificity of mammography was absolutely lower and lower than that of breast MRI. But at the end, especially when we started the study on high risk, the reality came up. And in 2007, the American Cancer Society stated for the first time the indication of breast MRI for high-risk screening, including the BRCA mutation and family genetic familial high risk. This was a turning point in which MRI entered, also with favor by oncologists and epidemiologists and surgeons in the field of a large use in the screening of high-risk people. And after this, other indication came up: monitoring the neoadjuvant chemotherapy, problem solving, nipple discharge, and so on. For the staging, we had, and we have still, problems related to the idea that breast MR can induce more mastectomies than needed. And this is a very difficult topic because the difficulty of getting data, of gathering data on this is due to the fact that between the diagnostic of staging, local staging with MRI, and the outcome, there is a lot of variation in the treatment. So it's very difficult. But data are coming, and also the study, the MIPA study, is bringing to the reality, to the scientific and clinical community important data on this. However, what happened some years ago is that a screening study, the DANCE trial performed in the Netherlands, showed a strategic thing. So that MRI is able, compared in a randomized trial to mammography, not only to see more cancers. That is not the aim, because the aim is to see the biologically relevant cancer in breast and in other field of clinical activity like prostate and so on. And this study published on the New England Journal of Medicine showed that there is a reduction of interval cancers. So at this moment, we have this particular situation for which there is a first-level evidence for a randomized control, from a randomized control trial for using breast MRI for screening dense breast. But the first screening was decided by the community without any randomized control trial, that is the screening of high risk. So, as you know, there is a difference between theory and practice, and the practice is showing that breast MRI is a big winner. The course takes the story, all the story, and shows to the people what is the indication, how to manage difficult cases, how to learn about the technique, and is something for which I know from the EUSOBI office that many people follow the course many times during all these years. I think this is an occasion for people in Nice or in Valencia to have a real large view of the utilization of breast MRI in clinical practice.
Thank you, Francesco, for this really broad statement, and I really appreciate it. I remember when I still was a medical student, I realized the passion which drove you during the legendary Werner Kaiser congresses in Jena. And I think that's the clue behind this and the success story. You were bringing together both the passion, which is, I think, important driver for everything, because without passion, you may be very bright, but that's not enough. But that's number one. But number two, you're bringing the scientific evidence together, plus the clinical experts, plus the exchange format. And I think this is what makes these courses so wonderful. And I personally have to thank you that I had the privilege to take part as a lecturer sometimes. And I can really say there are many faces who come over again and over again. Though this is not just one time, there are many people who are coming over and again. And I want to thank you also to outlining the evolution of breast MR during these years, from the debate of specificity in the 2008, and then became over to the meta-analysis, where you have been one of the drivers of systematic evidence. I remember the pivotal papers by you in European Radiology, who basically introduced the whole thing, which was new, actually 10, 15 years ago. So this is very interesting. Would you like to comment a little bit? I mean, we now have time to talk about this evidence story, because this was something huge, which basically, I think there was a talk by you in ECR 08 or 09, where I personally first realized, okay, this is really important for us as radiologists, and obviously was given by you. It was about the important about evidence radiology, evidence-based medicine in radiology. So when did you first realize that this has to be introduced not only in internal medicine and surgery, but also in radiology? Let's talk about this, because this is so important.
Very shortly, the message is that to become quite acknowledged, quite expert, if you want, to know about the theory of evidence-based medicine is important for radiology, because there are big differences in using imaging methods for screening or for diagnostics. It is important to know that the level of evidence that we need is different, because for the screening, we need randomized control trials. For the diagnostic, we need sensitivity and specificity study. However, also in recent discussion with the clinicians and epidemiologists and surgeons and whatever, they do not know about this difference. And they continue to think that randomized control trial is the best thing to do for having evidence for diagnosis. And this is an error, because it's a quite complex topic, but I want to simplify it. Randomized control trial are an alternative of intra-individual comparison for therapy, because for therapy, in the majority of cases, an intra-individual comparison is not possible. So ophthalmologists and dermatologists can do intra-individual curing the two eyes and the two arms with two different drugs. In the majority of cases in clinical, this is not possible. This is done using randomized control trials. But for diagnosis, when we can compare in the same subject two techniques, there is no need of randomized control trial. However, when you go to screen, you need randomized control trial to show that there is a difference in outcome, because the screening is a totally different topic compared to diagnosis. So we have to distinguish the level of evidence, and now we have top level of evidence for screening dense breast, and top level of evidence for diagnosis, for staging, or for monitoring therapy and whatever. But we have to distinguish, because in one case we need randomized control trial, in the other we don't need randomized control trial. The paradoxical story is that when the American Cancer Society cleared breast MRI for high-risk women, they did not have any randomized control trial, but they say yes on the basis of the difference in sensitivity of breast MRI compared to mammography, that show that one thing is the theory and another thing is the practice. But now, for dense breast, we have the evidence from randomized control trial. But there is a big difficulty in generalizing this for other reasons that are not the evidence, but is the availability of machine and the cost of a screening of MRI. But this is a situation, is quite complex, but radiologists need to know exactly this topic.
Thank you, Francesco, for making this clear. And I'm sorry to giving you this difficult question, but there's no one else I could imagine who can basically explain this to us. And this is one of the, I think, things I really love about the courses. We are really teaching the essential stuff. So yes, you may think, why should I bother about RCTs when I'm a breast imager? But this is so important because there are so many misunderstandings, which basically also impact our daily practice, because we think we need this kind of evidence, but not, as you said, no, there are different stories. Yes, obviously it's way more complex, but another reason to go to these wonderful courses. The next one in Nice, France, and the next edition going to be in September, October, together with the Valencia annual scientific meetings. So at this time, I think you guys at home have got the feeling we could talk here for hours, because Francesco Sardanelli, Professor Francesco Sardanelli from Milan, Italy, one of the leaders of EUSOBI during the last decades, I have to say, could tell you so much about his passion, about the evolving of the courses. But let's pause here at the moment, and let's continue that in Nice, in Valencia, when we all can meet again face to face. Francesco, the final word obviously belongs not to me, it's to you. Do you have any final words to our followers who obviously enjoyed this interview with you and are grateful for sharing your time?
Yeah, a very simple message is that probably my co-director, that is Federica Pediconi, will give you a specific presentation of the programs of the two courses, showing what are the lessons and how the courses are organized, how the workshop are managed, and in particular discussing the title of the lectures that we selected carefully for you.